Welcome back to Real Family Secrets. Some lies are hidden in deleted messages. Mine was tucked between white roses and eucalyptus. I came home one Tuesday afternoon and found a bouquet waiting outside our front door. I thought it was for my wife. Then I found the receipt inside. It had her boss's name on it, and the delivery date was the same night she told me she was sleeping at her mother's house. My name is Thomas Bennett. My wife's name is Monica. And before that bouquet arrived, I had spent 12 years believing that trust was the strongest thing in our marriage. Monica and I met when we were both 27. She worked at a downtown hotel, organizing conferences and business events. I was an electrician, usually covered in dust, carrying a toolbox, and trying not to be late for the next job. We met because a hotel ballroom lost power 10 minutes before a charity dinner. I was crouched behind a service panel when Monica appeared beside me in a dark blue dress and said, "Please tell me you can fix this." "That depends. Are you asking nicely?" "I'm asking desperately." I got the lights back on. She bought me coffee after the event. A year later, we were married. Our life was not glamorous. A modest home outside the city, a mortgage, one aging car we argued about replacing every winter, a golden retriever named Bailey, who believed every meal was a group project. We had a daughter, Ava, who was 9 and had recently started correcting my grammar. "Dad, it's Ava and I, not me and Ava." "You sound exactly like your mother." That's the point. I loved that little family. I thought it was safe. Monica had changed jobs 2 years earlier. She became a project coordinator at a commercial real estate firm called Hawthorne Development. At first, she loved it. "They actually listened to my ideas here." Good. They should. She was organized, sharp, and capable of making difficult clients feel heard without giving them everything they wanted. She worked hard. So when she started talking about her boss, I was not suspicious. "Greg thinks I'm ready for more responsibility. Greg wants me in the leadership meetings. Greg says I could lead a regional team someday." Greg Halston was the senior vice president of her division. He was older than Monica by about 15 years. Married, polished. The kind of executive who had perfect white teeth and never seemed to raise his voice. His name became normal in our house. That should have worried me more than it did. The flowers arrived on a Tuesday in March. It had rained all morning. By the time I got home, the sky was gray, and wet leaves were stuck to the front steps. A large white box sat beside the door. For Monica Bennett, I smiled. I assumed one of her coworkers had sent them. Monica had been working late all week, preparing for a company award ceremony. Her team had nominated her for an internal promotion, and I thought perhaps someone wanted to congratulate her. I carried the box inside. Bailey came running from the kitchen. He sniffed the flowers and sneezed. "Not for you, buddy." I set the bouquet on the dining table and removed the wrapping. White roses, pale pink ranunculus, eucalyptus. A small card with no message written inside. Then something slipped out from the bottom of the paper sleeve. A receipt. I picked it up. "Order placed by Gregory Halston." My first thought was that it had to be a mistake. Maybe Greg had ordered flowers for the entire team. Maybe Monica had helped with an event. Maybe the florist had mixed up paperwork. Then I saw the delivery details. Delivered March 4th, 8:15 p.m. The date was familiar. March 4th was the night Monica told me she was staying at her mother's house. Her mother lived 40 minutes away. Monica had said she was helping after a medical appointment. "Mom doesn't want to be alone tonight." "Of course. Tell her I said hi." I had packed Ava's lunch, walked Bailey, and slept alone in our bed. The delivery address was not our house. It was an apartment building near Hawthorne Development's downtown office. I sat down at the dining table. The flowers filled the room with a sweet, expensive smell. I hated them immediately. I did not call Monica. I did not drive to the apartment building. I did not contact her mother and drag her into a truth she might not know. I placed the receipt in my wallet and waited. Monica came home at 7:30. Traffic was terrible. She stepped into the dining room and saw the bouquet. Her face changed. Not much, but enough. "What are those?" "Flowers. I can see that." They were outside the door. Monica walked closer. Who sent them? You tell me. Her eyes moved across the flowers, then to the receipt I had placed on the table. She did not touch it. Thomas, why did your boss send flowers to an apartment downtown on the night you said you were staying with your mother? Monica sat down. You went through my things. The receipt was in a bouquet left at our front door. That doesn't mean anything. Then explain it. She looked toward the kitchen. Ava was upstairs finishing homework. I kept my voice low. Our daughter was not going to hear this. Greg sent flowers because I helped him with an important account. To an apartment building, the flowers were meant for someone else. Who? She did not answer. Why is your name on the delivery? You're making this into something it isn't. No. I'm asking what it is. Monica covered her face. I went to the apartment. The room seemed to shrink. Whose apartment? Greg's. I looked at the receipt again. Gregory Halston, a man who had praised my wife's work. A man who had encouraged her. A man I had shaken hands with at last year's company holiday event. Why? We were talking. About what? My promotion. My future. I was upset, and he sent you flowers. It wasn't like that. Was he there? Yes. Were you alone? Yes. I stood up. I'm going to take Bailey for a walk. Thomas, please don't leave. I'm leaving the room before I say something I will regret. I put on my coat. Bailey followed me to the door. I had never been more grateful for a dog needing a walk. I walked for almost an hour. Rain had started again. Bailey pulled toward every tree, every wet patch of grass, every smell I could not notice. I kept thinking about Monica's face, not the tears, the pause before the tears. If nothing had happened, she would have been confused. Instead, she had been afraid. When I got home, Ava was asleep. Monica was sitting in the living room with the lights off. I'm sorry. For what? She did not answer. I need you to sleep in the guest room tonight. Thomas. Tomorrow, I will speak to an attorney, and I need you to decide whether you want to tell me the truth before I find it on my own. The next morning, I contacted a family law attorney. Her name was Elise Warren. A coworker had recommended her during his divorce a few years earlier. Do not make any big financial moves out of anger, Elise told me. Preserve the records you already have access to. Protect your child's routine. Keep all conversations calm and in writing where appropriate. I don't want to punish Monica. Then focus on what you need to protect, not what you want to destroy. That was exactly what I wanted. We discussed our home, the joint accounts, Ava's school schedule, and the savings fund we had started for her. I made one thing clear. Ava does not become a messenger or evidence in this. She should not. Later that afternoon, I reviewed our shared financial records, only accounts in both our names, only information I was legally entitled to see. I did not open Monica's work email. I did not try to access her phone. I did not follow her. I was not looking for a way to control her. I was trying to understand the life I had been asked to fund without knowing it. There were several expenses I had ignored before: parking near downtown, restaurant charges on nights Monica said she was working late, a hotel bar payment, a transfer into an account she had described as emergency savings. Then I saw something different, a payroll deposit from Hawthorne Development. It was larger than usual, much larger. Monica had received a substantial salary increase 3 months earlier. She had never told me. We had discussed cutting expenses. We had postponed replacing my car. We had told Ava she might need to wait another year before summer camp became possible. All while Monica's income had increased and disappeared into an account she had kept separate. That evening, I asked Monica to sit at the kitchen table. She looked exhausted. What now? When were you promoted? Her shoulders dropped. Thomas. When? January. And why didn't you tell me? Because I knew you'd ask questions. About what? She looked at her hands. Greg helped make it happen. Did he nominate you? Yes. Did he approve the increase? Yes. I nodded slowly. The flowers were not the beginning. The promotion was part of the same secret. Were you involved with him when he nominated you? Yes. I closed my eyes. I had hoped she would say no, Hope was becoming something I had to let go of. How long? Since December, 4 months. I didn't plan it. You went to his apartment. You accepted money connected to his influence. You hid it from me. You planned enough. I felt invisible. I'm sorry you felt that way, but you were not invisible. You were my wife. You were Ava's mother. You were the person I built my life around, and you chose to make me the only person in the room who did not know what was happening. Monica told me Hawthorne's promotion ceremony was the following Friday. It had been planned for weeks. She was supposed to receive a leadership award before the announcement of her new role. She had asked me to attend. It would mean a lot to me. I had already bought a new shirt. The day after our conversation, I met Elise again. I gave her the receipt, the timeline, and records of the salary increase from our shared financial documents. Do not contact the company in a way that sounds threatening, she said. You can report a potential conflict through the appropriate ethics channel. Keep it factual. I don't want to ruin her career. Then don't make conclusions. Report what you know. Provide only records you are allowed to provide. And let the employer investigate according to its own policies. I thought about that for a long time. I did not want strangers online tearing Monica apart. I did not want Ava to someday find a public story about her mother, but I also could not ignore that a senior executive had been involved with a subordinate he helped promote. So I sent a concise report through Hawthorne Development's confidential ethics portal. I identified the potential relationship, the apartment delivery receipt, and the timing of the promotion and pay increase. I made no public accusation. I did not post names. I did not call the press. I did not contact Monica's coworkers. I sent the facts to the people responsible for handling them. Friday arrived. Monica got dressed early. She wore a navy suit, simple earrings, and a silver watch I had given her for our 5th anniversary. She looked beautiful. That was one of the hardest parts. A person can look familiar while becoming impossible to recognize. Are you coming? She asked. I'll be there. She looked relieved. I did not tell her I would not be sitting in the ballroom. Hawthorne Development's headquarters stood 20 floors above downtown. Glass doors. Black stone lobby. A lobby fountain that made the building sound calmer than it was. The ceremony was being held in a large event space on the top floor. Monica went inside. I stayed in my car across the street. I parked beneath a row of bare trees and watched people enter through the glass doors. Men in suits, women in formal dresses, employees holding phones and coffee cups. I imagined Monica upstairs, standing near Greg, accepting compliments from people who did not know what had happened. I imagined Greg smiling, as if he had earned the right to stand beside her. Then my phone buzzed. It was Monica. Where are you? Nearby. They just pulled me aside. A minute passed. HR says my promotion is on hold. I stared at the message. Then another arrived. They're investigating Greg. I did not reply immediately. Not because I wanted her to suffer, because I wanted to choose my words carefully. I know. 3 dots appeared. You did this. I reported a conflict of interest. I did not create it. The dots disappeared. I sat in the car while the ceremony continued without her. At least, I assumed it did. I did not go upstairs to watch. I did not stand outside the ballroom. I did not wait for Monica to walk out devastated so I could see it on her face. I had spent enough of my marriage waiting for proof that someone else had stopped choosing me. I did not need one more scene. An hour later, Monica came out of the building. She walked slowly. Her navy suit looked rumpled now. Her shoulders were low. Her phone was still in her hand. She saw my car across the street. Then she walked toward it. How could you? How could I report a relationship between a manager and the employee he promoted? You wanted to humiliate me. No. If I wanted to humiliate you, I would have walked into that ballroom. Monica stood beside the passenger door. I could lose everything. You made choices that put your career at risk. I did not invent the flowers. I did not invent the apartment. I did not invent the raise. What happens now? You get your own attorney, and we begin a separation that keeps Ava safe from this. Monica wiped her face. Can we work on this? I looked at the building behind her, the building where she had planned to celebrate a future built on a secret. I don't know what your work investigation will decide, but I know I cannot keep being married to a life I was never allowed to understand. I'm done pretending I don't see what is in front of me. The separation was difficult. It was not a single conversation or a clean ending. There were schedules, conversations about Ava's school, meetings with attorneys, decisions about who would remain in the house temporarily. I refused to let Ava become part of the details. We told her that Mom and Dad were having adult problems and would be living separately for a while. Did I do something wrong? That question almost broke me. No, sweetheart. Never. You did nothing wrong. Both of us love you more than anything. I repeated that sentence often, because children need to hear the truth that protects them, not the truth that turns them against a parent. Hawthorne's internal investigation took several months. I did not follow every detail. I did not ask colleagues for gossip. Eventually, Monica told me that Greg had resigned. Her promotion was withdrawn, and she was placed on leave before later returning to a different department under new management. I did not feel happy about it. I did not feel sad either. Those consequences belonged to the choices they made. 6 months later, I took Ava to the park on a warm Saturday morning. Bailey ran after a tennis ball across the grass. Ava sat beside me on a bench, eating a cinnamon pretzel and telling me about a science project involving planets. Jupiter is huge, but it's mostly gas, so it's basically Bailey after dinner. Dad. She laughed. That sound made the whole world feel less damaged. Are you okay now? I looked at her. I'm getting there. Mom says you're quiet now. I smiled a little. Sometimes quiet is good. Why? Because when things get loud, quiet helps you hear what matters. Ava considered that. Like me? Exactly like you. I still remember sitting in my car outside Hawthorne Development. My wife was upstairs learning that her promotion had been stopped. I could have gone inside. I could have made a scene. I could have stood in front of everyone and demanded that they see what she had done, but I did not need to. The truth had already reached the people who needed to hear it. I had protected my daughter. I had protected my future. And I had refused to turn the worst part of my life into a performance. Sometimes the loudest exposure is the one you never have to say out loud yourself. If this story moved you, subscribe for more stories about betrayal, boundaries, and rebuilding your life after the truth comes out. And tell us in the comments, would you confront your spouse the moment you found the receipt, or gather the facts first?
Welcome back to Real Family Secrets. Grab your snacks, get comfortable. The people in these stories had every chance to behave themselves. They just chose wrong. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. You're going to love it here. My name is Derek Ashford, and 6 weeks ago I discovered my wife was having an emotional affair with a colleague named Trent Michaels. Instead of confronting her right away, I found his wife on Instagram and sent her every screenshot I had. What happened next was something neither of them saw coming. Jennifer and I had been married 6 years when I first noticed the shift. Her phone stayed face down more often. Her laugh, on calls I could hear from the next room, had a lightness I recognized from our own early dating years, the kind you don't usually hear directed at a coworker. I didn't confront her immediately. I've never been someone who accuses first and asks questions later. I wanted proof, not a feeling. It took 3 weeks of quiet attention before I found what I needed. Her laptop, left open one evening while she showered, still logged into a messaging app she rarely used for work. Message after message, with a name saved simply as T. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. You make every day better. What would I do without you? Her words, sent to a man named Trent Michaels, a senior account manager at her firm, married, according to a quick search, for 11 years to a woman named Rachel. I didn't scream. I didn't confront her that night. I photographed every message carefully, methodically, the way you'd document evidence for something far more serious than what it technically was. I sat with that folder of screenshots for 4 days before deciding exactly what I wanted to do with it. I found Rachel Michaels on Instagram easily enough. A public profile, family photos, a golden retriever, a life that looked, from the outside, entirely unaware of what her husband had been building in private conversations for months. I created a separate email account. No name, no identifying information. I attached every screenshot, every timestamp, every message that made the nature of the relationship unmistakable, and I sent it with a single line. I think you should see what your husband has been writing to a married coworker. I'm sorry you're finding out this way. I didn't tell Jennifer anything. I simply waited and continued living exactly as I had. Dinner, conversation, the ordinary rhythms of a marriage that, on the surface, looked completely intact. 2 days later, Jennifer's demeanor shifted. She was quieter at dinner, checking her phone more anxiously than usual, the specific nervous energy of someone who senses something has gone wrong but doesn't yet know what. On the third day, I sent her a single text while she was, coincidentally, at a coffee shop with Trent. Information I'd learned from tracking her calendar, which she'd never bothered to make private from a shared family account we still used for scheduling. Ask him if his wife liked the screenshots, I wrote. I later learned, secondhand, exactly how that afternoon unfolded, because Rachel Michaels herself eventually reached out to me, having tracked down my identity through the email metadata weeks later. She told me the whole scene practically moment by moment. Jennifer had received my text and gone pale immediately, staring at her phone like it had just detonated in her hand. Moments later, Rachel walked into that same coffee shop, having received my anonymous email 2 days earlier, and spent that entire time quietly gathering the courage to confront her husband in person, at the exact place his messages suggested he frequently met T. You must be the wife of the man who sent me those very interesting screenshots, Rachel said, standing over their table. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Jennifer started. Trent and I are just— Don't, Rachel interrupted. Don't insult my intelligence by finishing that sentence. Other customers had started noticing by then. Trent reached for Jennifer's arm, urging her to leave, to talk at home, worried openly about the scene they were creating. A scene, Rachel said. You're worried about a scene? I've spent 3 days looking at messages between you two. Those were his words. Your words, Trent. To her. Jennifer's phone began buzzing insistently in her bag. She glanced at it, and her face went pale. I have to go, she mumbled. Does he know you're here? Rachel asked. Your husband. Jennifer froze completely. He's the one who told me where to find you, Rachel continued. He's the one who's been documenting everything. And from the look on your face, I'm guessing he's just sent a message explaining exactly what's waiting for you at home. This isn't what it looks like, Jennifer tried, her voice barely audible. Then explain it to me, Rachel said. Explain why my husband has been texting you at midnight. Explain the inside jokes. Trent finally spoke. Nothing physical has happened. We've never— Never what? Rachel's voice rose. Never kissed. Do you think that makes this okay? Emotional affairs are still affairs. You gave her parts of yourself that belonged to me. Jennifer was crying by then, according to what Rachel told me later, clutching her phone, whispering that she needed to go home, that she needed to fix things. There's nothing to fix, Rachel told her. Your husband knows, just like I know. Whatever you had before this moment, it's over. You both made sure of that. Jennifer's phone rang. She answered with shaking hands. I'm coming home now, she said. A pause. What do you mean empty? What papers? Her voice broke. No. Please don't do this. But oh, Manamoy. Rachel turned back to Trent one final time. I'm staying at my sister's, she said. Don't call me. Don't text me. My lawyer will be in touch. She pulled off her wedding ring and set it on the table between them. 6 years of marriage reduced to a small circle of gold on laminate. She walked out, leaving both of them behind in the quiet wreckage of a coffee shop that had, moments earlier, just been an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I received a text from Rachel that same evening, the number I'd used to send the original email, which she'd apparently saved despite my anonymity. "Are you okay?" she wrote. "I will be," I replied. "Thank you for caring enough to tell me the truth." "How are you holding up?" I asked. "Surprisingly well," she wrote back. "Sometimes knowing is better than wondering." Jennifer and I separated within the month. There was no dramatic confrontation between us. By the time she came home that day, the truth had already done all the work I needed it to do. Rachel and I never met in person, oddly enough. We exchanged a handful of messages over the following weeks, two strangers who'd never spoken before, bound together by the same betrayal delivered from two different directions. I think about that decision sometimes, whether sending those screenshots anonymously was fair, whether I should have simply confronted Jennifer directly and let the affair unravel privately. I've decided I don't regret it. Some truths deserve to surface in the exact place they were built. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real family stories and tell us in the comments, was sending those screenshots the right call or too far?
Welcome back to Real Family Secrets. Sometimes the truth does not arrive through a confession. Sometimes it comes through a baby monitor. My wife thought I was in the garage, but I was sitting beside our sleeping son, listening through the monitor as she told another man that our child would not understand what was happening. "Eli is only 4, she said. "He'll adjust. Jason will move out eventually. He's too stable to make this ugly." The man on the other end laughed quietly. "And you're sure?" "I know my husband," my wife said. "He won't fight me. My name is Jason Miller." And that was the night I learned the difference between being peaceful and being powerless. Melissa and I had been married for 6 years. We met at a friend's 4th of July barbecue. I was standing near a grill, trying to rescue a tray of burgers after someone forgot them. Melissa walked over, took the tongs out of my hand, and said, "You're doing it wrong." That's a confident opening line. I teach fitness classes. Confidence is part of the job. She saved the burgers. Then she stayed beside me for the rest of the evening. Back then, Melissa was energy. She talked with her hands. She laughed loudly. She made friends in grocery store lines and knew the names of every barista in our neighborhood. I was the opposite. I worked as a logistics manager for a regional medical supply company. My job was schedules, routes, inventory, late deliveries, and problems that had to be solved before they became emergencies. Melissa said I made her feel safe. I believed that was a good thing. When our son Eli was born, I thought our life became complete. I remember holding him in the hospital at 3 in the morning. Melissa had finally fallen asleep, exhausted and pale, and Eli was curled against my chest like he had always belonged there. I looked down at him and made a promise I never said out loud. Whatever happened in my life, I would be the place he could feel safe. I did not know I would be tested on that promise so soon. By the time Eli turned 4, our house had changed. Not dramatically. Not all at once. That is how most things change. Melissa started teaching more classes at the athletic club where she worked. She led children's movement sessions in the mornings and adult strength training sessions in the evenings. "The extra hours are good for us," she would say. "We should be saving more." She was right. We had a mortgage, preschool fees, car payments, a child who somehow outgrew shoes every 3 months. So I supported her. I did not realize that extra hours had become a cover. The first strange thing was book club. "The girls are meeting every Thursday now," Melissa told me one evening. I did not think much about it. She deserved time with friends. Parenting a young child can make adults forget they existed before snack cups and bedtime routines. "What are you reading?" I asked. "Oh, nothing serious, just a novel." The next week, I asked again. "I don't remember the title. Claire picked it." I noticed that, but I did not question it. Then there was Aaron Cole. Aaron was one of the personal trainers at Melissa's club. He was married. He had a daughter around Eli's age. He was friendly in a practiced way, the kind of person who remembered names and compliments and exactly how long to hold eye contact. I met him once at the club's summer family event. "Jason, right? Melissa talks about you all the time." At the time, that made me smile. Later, I wondered what exactly she had been saying. The night everything changed was a Thursday in November. Rain pressed against the windows. The house smelled like the chicken soup I had made for Eli, who had a cold and had fallen asleep early. Melissa stood in the hallway wearing jeans, a cream sweater, and the perfume she normally saved for date nights. She picked up her bag. Book club. Have fun. You sure you're okay with bedtime? I've got him. She kissed my cheek. Then she walked out the door. Eli woke up around 9:30. Daddy? I'm here, buddy. His nose was stuffed. He wanted water. Then he wanted the lamp on. Then he wanted it off. Then he wanted me to sit beside him until he fell asleep. So I did. I sat in the old rocking chair near his bed while the baby monitor glowed softly on the shelf. The monitor connected to a small camera in his room and another unit downstairs. We used it because Eli sometimes woke during the night and because I worried more than I admitted. At 10:12, I heard the front door downstairs. I assumed Melissa had come home early. I almost called out to her. Then I heard her voice through the downstairs receiver. You can come in. Jason is in the garage. I stopped moving. Eli was asleep again. I was not in the garage. A man's voice answered. Are you sure? Yes, he's fixing the lawnmower or something. He won't come in. I knew that voice. Aaron. I did not run downstairs. I did not grab the monitor and start recording everything with my phone. I sat completely still beside my sleeping son. Because in that moment, I understood something important. Whatever I did next had to protect Eli. This can't keep going, Aaron said. Melissa was quiet for a few seconds. I know. Then what are you going to do? I've been looking at apartments near the club. My hands tightened around the arm of the rocking chair. You mean you're actually leaving? Eventually, not tonight. I need to make it look gradual. Make it look gradual. Jason will move out eventually, she continued. He hates conflict. He'll want things to be peaceful for Eli. And Eli? Eli is only 4. He'll adjust. He won't understand. I looked at my son. His dinosaur blanket was pulled up to his chin. His small hand rested beside his face. He understood more than she thought. Children always do. Aaron lowered his voice. Melissa, I'm not leaving Natalie. For the first time that night, I felt something almost like relief. Not because the betrayal hurt less, but because I understood the truth. Melissa was not leaving me for a future with Aaron. She was trying to build a backup life while keeping everyone else in place. I know that, she said. Then what do you expect? I expect you to stop acting like I'm asking for forever. I'm asking for one person in my life who sees me. I had heard versions of that sentence before. You never listen. You're always thinking about work. You don't notice me anymore. I had tried to listen. Maybe I had not always done it perfectly. But I had never stopped choosing my family. Aaron said, You need to be careful. Jason might fight you for custody. Melissa laughed quietly. Jason won't fight. He'll think he's protecting Eli by being reasonable. That sentence did not make me angry. It made me clear. I waited until I heard the front door close. I do not know how long Aaron stayed. I did not go downstairs to find out. I was not going to wake my son. I was not going to create a confrontation in the hallway where Eli might hear it. At 11:06, Melissa came upstairs. She opened Eli's door slowly. Is he asleep? Yes. I'm glad you got him down. She leaned over and kissed Eli's forehead. Then she looked at me. Everything okay? Why wouldn't it be? She watched me for a moment. You just seem quiet. Long night. She nodded. Then she went to bed. I stayed in the rocking chair until almost midnight. I listened to Eli breathe, slow, even, safe, and I made another promise. I would not use him as a weapon, but I would never allow anyone to use him as leverage either. The next morning, I went to work as usual. I answered emails. I spoke to drivers. I fixed a problem with a late shipment to a clinic outside the city. On the outside, I looked normal. On the inside, I was trying to learn how to breathe in a life that had changed overnight. At lunch, I called a family law attorney. Her name was Elena Walsh. A colleague had recommended her after his own divorce years earlier. Mr. Miller, she said, before we discuss what you think happened, I want you to understand something. Okay. Do not make any sudden moves. Do not remove your child from his routine. Do not threaten your spouse. Do not interfere with her work. And do not record or share private conversations without understanding the rules where you live. I nodded. I don't want to make this worse. Then start by being the most stable person in the room. That sentence stayed with me. Be the most stable person in the room. Elena explained that family law depended on local facts, parenting history, finances, and the child's needs. There is no magic phrase. There is no perfect evidence that guarantees an outcome. What matters is what supports Eli's stability. That's what I want. Then document your parenting involvement, preschool pickup, medical appointments, bedtime routines, your work schedule, the support system around your son. I had never considered that loving my child might someday require a calendar. But I understood why it mattered. That afternoon, I made another call. Dr. Nora Patel's office. I'm looking for a child and family psychologist. I did not ask for someone to tell me Melissa was wrong. I asked for someone who could help me protect Eli from the damage adults create when they stop being honest. Dr. Patel met with me 2 days later. Her office had soft chairs, shelves of toys, and a small fish tank in the corner. It looked like a place built for children who had been asked to understand too much too early. "Tell me what you are worried about," she said. "I'm worried Eli will hear fighting. I'm worried someone will ask him to choose. I'm worried he will think one parent leaving means he did something wrong." Dr. Patel nodded. "Then you already know what not to do." She helped me make a plan. No arguing in front of Eli. No asking him questions about either parent's private life. No making promises about living arrangements before adults had made responsible decisions. No treating him as a messenger. Instead, we would give him routines, bedtime stories, preschool, breakfast at the same table. Clear, simple reassurance. Safety before explanations. I waited 4 days before speaking to Melissa, not because I was afraid, because I wanted facts, advice, and a plan before emotion entered the room. On Tuesday evening, after Eli fell asleep, I asked Melissa to sit at the kitchen table. She came in holding a mug of tea. "What's going on? How long have you been seeing Aaron?" The mug stopped halfway to her mouth. She looked at me. "What?" "I know he came to the house last Thursday. Jason, I know you discussed apartments. I know you said I would move out. I know you said Eli would not understand." Melissa set the mug down with both hands. "You heard us." The baby monitor was still on. She looked toward the hallway, then back at me. "You were listening to a private conversation. I was sitting beside our sick son in his bedroom. You invited another man into our home while you believed I was outside." Her face tightened. "It wasn't physical. That is not what I asked. We talked, that's all." "Were you planning to move out?" She did not answer. "Were you planning to use Eli as a reason to make me leave?" I was scared. Of what? Of being stuck. I looked at her for a long time. "I never wanted you to feel stuck. But you do not get to escape a difficult marriage by turning our son into a strategy. I don't want to lose Eli. Neither do I. That is why we are not going to treat him like something one of us wins." Melissa cried for a long time. She said Aaron had made her feel noticed. "I felt like I disappeared after Eli was born. I'm sorry you felt alone. But you had choices before betrayal. I know. You could have talked to me. You could have asked for counseling. You could have said you were unhappy. Instead, you made plans with another man in our home. What happens now? Now, we talk to professionals. We create a parenting plan. We stop making secret decisions around Eli. You already spoke to a lawyer. Yes, you planned all this. No, you planned to leave. I planned to keep our son safe." Melissa stayed with her sister for the next 2 weeks. Not because I threw her out, because we agreed that Eli needed quiet while we figured out how to speak to him without making him afraid. I kept his routine steady. Breakfast at 7. Preschool drop-off at 8. Dinner at 6. Bath at 7:30. One story, then the dinosaur nightlight. It sounds simple, but simple was exactly what he needed. A few days later, I learned something else. Aaron was not only married. His wife Natalie worked part-time at the same athletic club. She handled membership events and children's weekend activities. Melissa's kids' movement class took place 2 doors down from Aaron's training studio. They were not just 2 people who had met by accident. Their worlds had been overlapping around families and children while they told themselves it was harmless. I did not confront Aaron at the club. I did not call Natalie in anger. Elena advised me to keep the focus on my marriage and my child, not turn the situation into a chain reaction of public humiliation. But Natalie deserved the truth. I met her in a quiet cafe near the athletic club. She arrived wearing a navy coat, still carrying a staff badge in one hand. "Jason, Natalie, Thank you for meeting me. I told her only what I knew. Erin had come to my home during the time Melissa said she was attending book club. They discussed a future that assumed I would leave my home and Eli would simply adjust. I did not exaggerate. I did not need to. Natalie listened without interrupting. When I finished, she stared at the table. He told me he had late clients. I'm sorry. Did they sleep together? I took a breath. I do not know. I know they crossed boundaries. I know they made plans that involved my family. And I know you should not be the last person to hear it. What are you going to do? I'm going to be a good father. Natalie nodded. Then she cried without making a sound. Whoa. The athletic club opened an internal review after both Natalie and I raised concerns through the appropriate channels. I did not demand that anyone be fired. I reported a conflict involving staff, client spaces, and children's programming. What the club chose to do was not mine to control. Erin eventually resigned. Melissa took leave from her children's classes while the club reviewed its policies. Neither consequence came from me trying to destroy them. It came from choices they had made in places where trust mattered. 6 weeks later, Melissa and I began family mediation. The mediator's office did not look like a courtroom. There were 2 neutral chairs, a low table, a box of tissues, a framed poster that said, "Children need safety, not loyalty tests." I read that sentence 3 times before we started. The mediator, Paul Donovan, spoke calmly. This is not a place to decide who was the better spouse. It is a place to decide what your child needs from both parents. That was exactly why I had agreed to come. Melissa spoke first. I want equal time with Eli. I want him to have both parents. She looked at me. You do? Yes. I do not want Eli to grow up believing his mother disappeared because I was angry with her. Melissa's eyes filled with tears. I thought you wanted to take him from me. I wanted to stop you from deciding his life without me. The mediator asked us to describe Eli's routine. I brought a binder. Melissa looked at it as if she had not expected that. Preschool schedule, pediatrician details, his allergies, favorite foods, bedtime routine, emergency contacts, the names of his closest friends, notes from Dr. Patel about stable transitions and age-appropriate communication. It was not a weapon. It was a map of our son's life. I'm not here to win, I said. I'm here because he deserves to know where he will sleep, who will pick him up, and that neither parent will make him carry adult secrets. Melissa began crying again. I thought you would make this ugly. You thought I was too calm to protect myself. You were wrong. Calm is not the same as weak. The mediation took several sessions. We agreed on a gradual parenting schedule that gave Eli consistency. He would stay in the family home with me during the school week at first, while Melissa settled into a nearby apartment. She would have regular afternoons, dinner nights, and alternating weekends. We would review the plan with a child specialist after several months. No surprises, no disappearing, no changing plans through Eli. It was not the life I had imagined, but it was honest. First morning after Melissa moved into her apartment, Eli woke up before sunrise. Daddy, I'm here. Is Mommy coming today? I sat on the edge of his bed. Mommy will see you after preschool. She's going to pick you up, and you'll have dinner together. Is she sad? Children ask questions with a kind of honesty adults spend years avoiding. Mommy loves you very much. Sometimes adults feel sad when things change. Are you sad? I looked at him. Sometimes. Eli nodded. Then he reached out and put his small hand on mine. Daddy, he said, calm. I did not speak for a moment, because he had heard me say that word before, when he cried during thunderstorms, when he dropped his ice cream, when he was scared of the dark. Calm, I always told him. Daddy's here. I smiled. You're right, buddy. Calm. I do not know if Melissa and I will ever become friends. I do not know if I will ever understand how someone can sit at the same kitchen table, make plans for the future, and secretly prepare an exit through their child. But I know what I learned. Being a peaceful person does not mean accepting lies. Being a good father does not mean giving up your place in your child's life. And protecting your family does not always look like fighting. Sometimes it looks like listening. Sometimes it looks like preparing. Sometimes it looks like sitting beside a small bed before sunrise, holding your son's hand and choosing calm when everything inside you wants to break. Melissa thought I would not fight. She was right about one thing. I did not fight to destroy her. I fought to make sure my son never had to carry the weight of what we did wrong. If this story moved you, subscribe for more.
Welcome back to Real Family Secrets. Grab your snacks, get comfortable. The people in these stories had every chance to behave themselves. They just chose wrong. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. You're going to love it here. My name is Raymond Keller. 3 weeks after I discovered my wife had been moving money out of our marriage, her business partner sent me one message at 5:12 in the morning. I need to meet you alone. I have proof. Don't tell her. Celia and I had been married 15 years. I worked as a commercial appraiser, and she ran a small interior design company with a business partner named Owen Voss. From the outside, our life was ordinary in the way I had always considered lucky. We had a home in the suburbs, a daughter in college, a son finishing high school, and a kitchen where Celia and I had spent years talking over coffee before work. The first change was so small I almost felt foolish noticing it. Celia stopped leaving paperwork on the kitchen counter. For years, she had been careless with documents, client invoices, paint samples, tax notices, handwritten notes from Owen, everything used to spread across our house in uneven little piles. Then, about 9 months ago, every folder disappeared into a locked cabinet in her home office. I asked her about it once. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and said she had finally become more professional. I accepted that explanation because I trusted her. Trust makes ordinary changes look like harmless habits until enough of them gather into a pattern. The pattern became harder to ignore when a tax form arrived at our house with a company name I had never seen before, Northgate Furnishings, LLC. I assumed it was one of Celia's vendors, but when I asked, she told me it belonged to a client and had been mailed to our address by mistake. That answer should have ended it. Instead, it stayed with me. A week later, I checked the state business registry. Northgate Furnishings LLC had been registered 11 months earlier. Its manager was Owen Voss. Its registered agent was Celia Keller. I sat at my desk staring at the screen for a long time. My wife and her business partner had created a company together and never mentioned it to me. That alone wasn't proof of betrayal. People can own businesses without discussing every document at home. But then I found the bank account. Celia and I had always shared access to our household finances. I didn't open anything private, and I didn't go looking through accounts that did not belong to me. But I did review the joint account, the same account we used for mortgage payments, tuition, insurance, and family expenses. Over 11 months, there were 17 transfers labeled Design Operating Expense. The total was just over $96,000. Money had been leaving our joint account and entering Northgate Furnishings LLC, the company run by my wife and Owen. I wanted to ask her immediately. I wanted to put the records on the kitchen table and demand a simple explanation. Instead, I called a family law attorney. Her name was Helena Ward. She reviewed the records quietly, then folded her hands. "Raymond, don't accuse anyone yet," she said. "There may be an explanation. But before you reveal what you know, you need to document what you're legally entitled to document and understand where the money actually went. Do you think it's an affair?" "I think it may be financial deception," Helena said. "The rest will reveal itself if we're patient." Helena referred me to a forensic accountant named Meera Patel. Meera didn't begin with suspicions. She began with records. For 2 weeks, she traced the transfers, invoices, property filings, business registrations, and payment paths attached to Northgate Furnishings. What she found was worse than I expected. Northgate was not buying furniture for Celia's design clients. It was making payments on a downtown condominium purchased 6 months earlier. The condo was titled in Owen Voss's name, but the mortgage payments, renovations, furnishings, and utilities were all funded through Northgate. And Northgate was being funded by money transferred from my marriage. There were photographs too. Not intimate photographs, not at first, just public social media images that Meera had located through ordinary searches. Owen had posted pictures from the condo's rooftop lounge. In a reflection of a glass door behind him, Celia appeared in one image, holding a wine glass, wearing a dress I had bought her for our 15th anniversary dinner. I remember looking at that reflection longer than I looked at the financial records. Numbers have a way of staying abstract until you see the human reason behind them. That dress had been blue. She told me she loved it because it made her feel seen. Apparently she wore it somewhere else to be seen by someone else. Helena began preparing a legal filing to protect the marital assets while Mira continued tracing the money. We had not yet filed anything when Owen sent that message. "I need to meet you alone. I have proof, don't tell her." I read it 3 times, then I called Helena. "He wants to meet me," I said, "alone." "Then you choose the place," she said. "Public, visible, and quiet. Morning is better. Don't threaten him. Don't promise him protection. Don't tell him what you plan to do with anything he gives you." "What do I say?" "Say you'll listen, and then listen." I texted Owen back. "Riverside Park, East Entrance, near the boathouse, 6:30 tomorrow morning." He replied less than a minute later, "I'll be there." The next morning was cold enough that the grass had turned silver with frost. I arrived at 6:10 and sat on a bench facing the river. The water was dark. The sky was only beginning to lighten at the horizon. Owen arrived at 6:27. He wore a dark coat without gloves, carrying a thin black folder under one arm. He looked like a man who hadn't slept. "Sit," I said. He sat at the opposite end of the bench, leaving space between us. For almost a minute, neither of us spoke. I had spent 30 years assessing buildings, learning to sit quietly, while owners tried to explain why a structure was worth more than its documents proved. Silence has a way of making people reveal which parts of their story are weakest. "Celia told you something?" Owen finally asked. "No." "Then how did you asked to meet. You tell me." Owen looked down at the folder in his lap. "She told me you were preparing to leave her," he said. "She told me you'd been hiding money. She said Northgate was a way to protect what she had earned before you took everything." I didn't interrupt. "At first I believed her," he continued. "Then I started seeing things that didn't match. The transfers, the invoices. She asked me to sign papers I didn't understand. She said it was temporary." He placed the folder on the bench between us. "Everything I have is in there. Bank statements, emails, the condo paperwork, her instructions, and recordings." "Recordings?" "She recorded herself sometimes," he said, "planning conversations. She said she needed evidence in case I became disloyal." "And did you?" "I am now." Owen opened the folder and removed a small flash drive. "There's one file you should hear first. It's dated 4 months ago." I took the drive but did not plug it in. "Why are you giving me this?" Owen looked at the river. "Because I hired a criminal attorney yesterday," he said, "and he told me that if she forged your consent on the refinance papers, and I knew the money came from your joint account, I could be exposed too." There it was. Not conscience, not justice, self-preservation. "Thank you for being honest about that." Owen looked at me. "I'm not promising you anything," I said. "I'm not telling you what my attorney will do. I'm accepting what you brought me." He nodded slowly. "That's fair." I put the flash drive in my coat pocket and stood. "You should get your own attorney," I told him, "and you should stop signing anything." "I already have." I left him there on the bench, facing the river, holding nothing. Helena and Mira reviewed Owen's materials that afternoon. The evidence showed that Celia had forged my electronic consent on a refinancing document connected to our home equity line. She used the funds to make the condo payments, move money through Northgate, and build a financial exit that I was supposed to discover only after it had become impossible to unwind. The recordings were worse. In one, Celia's voice was calm, almost cheerful. "Once Ray realizes the money is already tied up in Northgate, he'll have to negotiate. He doesn't like conflict. He'll want everything finished quickly." I listened to that sentence twice. Then Owen's voice came through the recording. "What if he checks?" Celia laughed softly. "He won't. He trusts me." 15 years of marriage, reduced to one sentence. "He trusts me." Helena filed for divorce the following morning and sought immediate orders to preserve the assets while the financial records were reviewed. Celia was served at her design studio. I did not arrange for an audience. I did not need one. She called me 40 minutes later. "Raymond, what have you done?" I protected myself. "You hired someone to spy on me?" "I hired professionals to read the records you didn't think I would read." For several seconds she said nothing. "Owen contacted you." "Yes. He promised me." "He didn't promise you anything, and neither did I. I didn't want to hurt you," she said. "Then you should not have built a second life out of money you took from the first one." I ended the call. The divorce took nearly a year because the financial records were complicated. But the documents, messages, and recordings made the central facts impossible to deny. The condo was sold. The proceeds were held and distributed under the settlement, and Northgate Furnishings was dissolved. Owen cooperated through his own counsel. I never learned whether his cooperation came from fear, regret, or both. My son graduated high school last spring. My daughter comes home from college more often now. We have dinner at the same kitchen table, though I replaced the old chairs and painted the walls. Not because I needed to erase every memory, but because I wanted the room to belong to the life we have now. Sometimes I think about that morning at the river. Owen arrived hoping to buy himself an exit. Instead, he handed me the truth. And truth, I learned, is not always kind, but it is always better than being loved by someone who mistakes your trust for an opportunity. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real family stories, and tell us in the comments, would you have met Owen alone, or asked your attorney to handle everything?
Welcome back to Real Family Secrets. Some betrayals arrive with a confession. Mine arrived as a plane ticket. On the night of our 15th wedding anniversary, I found a boarding pass in my wife's purse. It was for a flight to Paris. The passenger was not me. My name is Owen Carter, and until that night, I thought I knew what my marriage looked like. Emma and I had been together for nearly 18 years. We met in college, in a crowded library during finals week. She had taken the last chair near an outlet, and I asked if she could move her bag. She looked at me like I had personally offended her. "You can sit on the floor," she said. "The floor is free." I sat on the floor. 2 hours later, she offered me half of her coffee. 15 years after our wedding, we still joked about that day, or at least I thought we did. We had built a normal life, a house outside Boston, 2 cars that needed more repairs than either of us wanted to admit, a daughter, Hannah, who was 13 and believed every adult over 40 had forgotten how the internet worked. Emma taught art at a private middle school. I worked as a financial planner. Our lives were not perfect. We argued about money sometimes, about work schedules, about who forgot to buy dog food, but I thought we were solid. I thought 15 years meant something. Monets. Our anniversary fell on a Friday in October. I had made a reservation at Bellini's, a small Italian restaurant downtown where we had gone on our first anniversary. The place was old-fashioned in the best way. Dark wood tables, low amber lights, a pianist near the bar who always played songs that made people remember things they had not thought about in years. I had also bought Emma a necklace, nothing extravagant, just a thin gold chain with a small oval pendant. On the back, I had engraved the date we met. I never gave it to her. Emma came downstairs at 6:30. She wore a dark green dress and the earrings I had given her for our 10th anniversary. For a second, she looked exactly like the woman I had married. Then her phone lit up on the kitchen counter. She looked at the screen and smiled. It was not a big smile, but it was not a smile meant for me. "Ready?" she asked. "Almost." She reached for her purse. It was a large black leather bag she had been carrying for years. She loved that purse, called it practical, because it could hold everything. That night, it held more than I understood. We drove downtown. Emma talked about school. One of her students had painted the vice principal as a dragon. Another had glued macaroni to a self-portrait and called it modern expression. I laughed in the right places. I even reached across the center console and took her hand. She let me hold it, but she did not squeeze back. At Bellini's, the hostess led us to a table near the window. It was the same table where I had asked Emma 15 years earlier whether she wanted to renew our vows someday. Back then, she had smiled and said,
Only if you promise not to make me wear white twice. That memory came back as I watched her sit across from me. Her phone stayed on the table, face down. You look beautiful, I said. Thank you. She said it automatically. Then she picked up the wine list. Dinner began quietly. We ordered wine. We talked about Hannah's upcoming school trip. Emma mentioned that her sister Claire was thinking about visiting next month. I had always liked Claire. She was loud, impulsive, and incapable of keeping a secret for more than 5 minutes. That was why what happened next mattered. The server came over to refill our water. Emma's purse slipped from the edge of her chair. It landed on the floor beside me. I bent down to pick it up. The zipper had opened. A white envelope slid halfway out. It had the logo of an airline printed in dark blue across the front. I did not mean to look, but my name was not on it. Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. Departure, Monday morning. Return, Thursday evening. There were 2 boarding passes. One belonged to Emma Carter. The other belonged to Julian Mercer. I knew that name. Julian Mercer had been in Emma's college art program. She had mentioned him once or twice over the years. Julian is opening a gallery in New York. Julian got divorced. Julian always thought he was more talented than everyone else. I had never met him, but I knew he was married. My hands stayed still. That surprised me. I expected shock to feel like a punch. Instead, it felt like cold water filling a room. I put the envelope back inside her purse. Then I placed the purse beside her chair. Thank you, Emma said, without looking up. She did not know. Not yet. The rest of dinner was one of the longest hours of my life. Emma told me she was planning a girls' trip with Claire after our anniversary, just a few days away. You know, museums, shopping, a little break. Paris? She looked up. Maybe. Claire found a cheap flight. That sounds nice. Her eyes searched my face. You don't mind? Why would I? She looked relieved. That relief stayed with me. She thought I had accepted the lie. I had simply decided not to interrupt it yet. Dessert arrived. Tiramisu for Emma. Espresso for me. I had planned to give her the necklace after dessert. Instead, I touched the small box inside my jacket pocket and left it there. Then Emma's phone rang. It's Claire, she answered quickly. Hey Claire, we're at dinner. Oh my God, Owen is there. Put me on speaker. Emma's face changed. Claire, no, but it was too late. Owen, happy anniversary, and congratulations on the surprise trip. I can't believe Emma is finally doing it. The restaurant sounds seemed to disappear. What surprise trip? I asked. Claire went silent. Oh, I thought. Emma closed her eyes. Claire, I'll call you later. The call ended. Emma looked across the table at me. Owen, your sister thinks I know about the trip. I was going to tell you. When? She did not answer. Who is Julian Mercer? Her face went pale. I did not need another answer. He's an old friend. Old friends do not need you to tell your husband you are traveling with your sister. It's not what you think. Then tell me what I think. She looked down at the wine glass between her hands. Julian and I reconnected earlier this year. How? Online. And we started talking. And it became more than talking. I looked out the window. Cars moved through the wet city streets. People hurried beneath umbrellas. A couple across the restaurant laughed over something I could not hear. The world did not stop. Mine did. How long? 5 months. 5 months. 5 months of phone messages. 5 months of late nights. 5 months of her changing passwords and turning her screen away from me. I had noticed all of it, and I had told myself trust meant not asking. I didn't want to hurt you. You booked a flight to Paris with another man. I know. You used our anniversary dinner to tell me you were going away with your sister. I know. Did you think I would never find out? She looked at me. I thought I could figure it out before it got worse. You planned a 4-day trip to Paris. It was already worse. I did not yell. I did not stand up and make a scene. I had no interest in turning strangers into witnesses of my worst night. I paid for dinner. I left the necklace in my pocket. Outside the restaurant, Emma followed me to the car. Please say something. I have said enough tonight. Are you going to leave me? I looked at her. I don't know yet, but I know you are not going to Paris with our money and expect me to wait here while you decide whether our marriage matters. Her crying stopped. What does that mean? It means you are going to give me the booking details, the hotel information, any account you used to pay for this, and then we are going home. You can't control me. You're right. I cannot control you, but I can control what I continue funding, what I sign, what I accept, and what I do next. Wow. We drove home in silence. Emma cried most of the way. I felt no satisfaction. Betrayal does not make you feel powerful. It makes you feel foolish for having loved someone honestly. At home, Hannah was asleep. Her bedroom door was half open. A small lamp glowed beside her bed. Her backpack sat on the floor, half packed for school. I stood in the doorway for a moment. I knew that whatever happened next, I had to keep this from becoming her burden. You sleep in the guest room tonight, I told Emma. Owen, please, not tonight. I went into my office, closed the door, and opened my laptop. I did not search through Emma's private accounts. I did not guess passwords. I reviewed only the financial information I had lawful access to, our joint savings, our shared travel card, and the household budget. The Paris tickets had been charged to our joint travel card, $4,800. The hotel deposit had come from our savings account, $2,100. Then I found another expense, a private airport transfer, a reservation for two. Emma was not taking a spontaneous vacation. She had built a plan. The next morning, I called an attorney. Her name was Rachel Monroe. Rachel had helped several clients from my financial planning firm navigate divorce and asset separation. I had recommended her to other people before. I never thought I would need her myself. Owen, she said after I explained the basics, you need to slow down before you make any financial changes. I don't want to punish Emma. Good. Then don't take impulsive action, but do protect yourself, preserve records, separate future income appropriately, review joint obligations, and document the trip expenses. She leaves Monday. Then we can file for temporary financial protections before that. It does not mean you are declaring war. It means she cannot empty accounts or incur large shared debts while you are trying to understand what comes next. I nodded. Do it. I met Rachel that afternoon. We reviewed everything. Our home was jointly owned. My retirement account had existed before our marriage, but contributions during the marriage had to be considered. Emma's teacher pension also mattered. We had a college fund for Hannah. That fund was not going to become collateral for someone else's affair. Rachel prepared a petition for temporary financial orders. It was not a revenge document. It did not accuse Emma of being evil. It simply required that major financial decisions be paused and shared funds be preserved until a formal agreement could be reached. It also documented the Paris charges. When I returned home, Emma was waiting in the kitchen. She looked as if she had not slept. Where were you? With an attorney. She sat down slowly. You're filing for divorce. I'm protecting Hannah, the house, and the money we built together. I said I was sorry. You said you were sorry after I found the tickets. I'll cancel the trip. Do you want to cancel it because you no longer want to go? She said nothing. Or because you know I will not keep pretending you're going with your sister? She looked down. I don't know. Then we have our answer. Emma did not cancel the flight. That was the moment I stopped hoping she would. She said she needed space. She said she needed to think. She said Julian understood her in ways I no longer did. I listened. Then I continued making decisions. I changed the future household budget. I moved my direct deposit into a separate account Rachel had confirmed was appropriate to use for new income, while continuing to meet every legal obligation toward the house, Hannah, and shared expenses. I froze no cards. I did not cut Emma off. I did not try to strand her, but I ended the automatic transfer into the travel account. I would not finance a romantic trip designed around a lie. Sunday night, Hannah came into my office. "Dad? Hey, sweetheart. Is Mom mad at you?" That question hurt more than the ticket. "No. Mom and I are dealing with some grown-up problems. Are you getting divorced?" Children do not need every detail, but they deserve honesty that does not damage them. "I don't know what will happen," I said, "but I know this. Both of us love you. None of this is your fault, and you will always have a home with me." Hannah nodded. Then she hugged me. I held on longer than I should have. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Emma left for the airport at 7. She wore a cream-colored coat and carried a small suitcase. I had seen her pack for trips before: family vacations, weekend visits to her mother, our 10th anniversary trip to Vermont. That morning, she packed like she was leaving a life behind. "Are you coming?" she asked. "To the airport?" "Yes." "No." She nodded. "I thought you would try to stop me. You wanted to go." She stood at the door for several seconds. "I don't know what I'm doing." "That is the first honest thing you've said in days." Then she left. I watched through the window as her car turned down the street. I did not chase it. At 9:15, Rachel called. "The temporary financial order has been filed. Emma's attorney will be notified today." "Thank you. How are you holding up?" I looked at the empty driveway. "I'm not sure yet." "You don't have to be sure today." I hung up. Then I did something I had not planned to do. I called Julian Mercer's wife. Her name was Natalie. I had found it through a public gallery announcement from the year before. I did not call to insult her. I did not call to unload my anger onto a stranger. I called because she deserved to know the truth before her husband boarded a plane with my wife. She answered on the third ring. "Hello? Natalie Mercer?" "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is Owen Carter. I'm Emma Carter's husband." Silence. "Okay. I'm sorry to call you this way, but I believe your husband is flying to Paris this morning with my wife." Natalie did not speak for several seconds. "No." "I have the flight details." "No." "Julian is in Chicago for an art fair." That is what Emma told me about her trip too. A different story. Same flight. I sent her copies of the tickets, hotel reservation, and a few messages Emma had voluntarily shown me during our conversation at home. I removed anything unrelated to the affair. Facts, no insults. Natalie called me back 10 minutes later. He told me he had a business meeting. "I'm sorry. What are you going to do?" "I have already done what I needed to do legally. I'm not calling to decide for you. But if you want to go to the airport, you should know they are departing from Terminal E. Flight 318. Her breathing changed. "I'll be there. I'll be there." I did not go to the airport to stop Emma. That mattered to me. I was not there to drag her home. I was not there to beg. I was not there to create a public spectacle. I was there because I had spent 15 years being the last person to know the truth. I was done being lost. Terminal E was crowded. Rolling suitcases, children crying near security, business travelers staring at phones, airport announcements cutting through the air every few minutes. I stood near a coffee kiosk across from the gate. I wore a dark coat and carried nothing but my phone, my wallet, and the small jewelry box still sitting in my jacket pocket. I had brought it without thinking. At 10:42, I saw Emma. She walked toward the gate with her suitcase behind her. She looked nervous, not guilty enough to turn around. Then Julian appeared from the other side of the terminal. He was taller than I imagined. Gray scarf, expensive coat, a leather carry-on. He smiled when he saw Emma. She smiled back. For 1 second, I felt something sharp inside me. Not jealousy, grief. Then I saw Natalie. She had arrived. She stood several feet behind Julian, still wearing a work badge around her neck. Her hair was tied back. Her face was pale but steady. She looked like a person who had driven too fast, parked anywhere she could, and walked into the worst truth of her life without taking time to prepare. Boarding began. Now boarding Group 1 for Flight 318 to Paris Charles de Gaulle. Julian reached for Emma's hand. Then Natalie spoke. "Julian." He froze. Emma turned. Her eyes found Natalie first, then they found me. I will never forget Emma's expression. Not because she looked ashamed, because she looked confused. She could not understand why I was there. She still believed I had come to stop her. "Owen?" "Hi, Emma. What are you doing here?" "Making sure you understood that I'm not stopping you." Julian turned toward Natalie. "Natalie, this is not." "Don't," she said. Her voice was low. That made it stronger. "Do not insult me by saying it is not what it looks like." Julian looked toward Emma. Emma stepped away from him. "You told her?" "I gave her the facts. You had no right. Neither of you had the right to build a trip on lies and expect everyone else to stay quiet." Natalie pulled out her phone. "I saw the messages," she said to Julian. "I saw the hotel reservation. I saw the way you talked about me." Julian's face changed. "I was going to explain. You were going to Paris." Around us, people began to notice. I kept my voice low. This was not a show. It was an ending. Emma stepped toward me. "Owen, please. We can go home and talk. We can talk later. So you want me to come home?" I looked at her. "I want you to make your own decision. But you need to understand something before you do. This morning, I filed for temporary financial protections." Emma stopped moving. "You filed? The accounts are protected. Hannah's college fund is protected. The house is protected until we resolve this properly. You are free to board that plane, but you are not free to take our future with you." Emma stared at me. For the first time since I had found the ticket, she looked like she understood the difference between a secret and a consequence. "You planned this." "No, you planned this." I responded to it. Julian picked up his suitcase. "Emma, we should go." She looked at him, then at Natalie, then at me. "What happens if I go?" "I don't know. But I know what happens if you keep lying. There will be nothing left to talk about." Final boarding call for Flight 318 to Paris Charles de Gaulle. Julian walked toward the gate. He did not look back at Natalie. He did not look back at Emma. He chose the easiest exit in the room. Emma watched him go. Her boarding pass was still in her hand. He's leaving? He's been leaving people behind for a long time. Natalie stood beside me, not because we were allies by choice, but because betrayal had made us witnesses to the same lie. "I'm sorry," she said. "So am I." Emma did not board the plane. She stood there until the gate door closed. Then she sat down in one of the plastic airport chairs and cried. I did not sit beside her, not because I hated her, because I could not be the man who comforted her from the consequences of hurting me. Huh, 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 huh. Natalie and I left the terminal separately. Outside, the morning air was cold and clean. She stopped beside her car. "What do you do now?" "I go home to my daughter." She nodded. "I hope you find peace." "You too." I drove home alone. I expected to feel empty. I expected to feel defeated. Instead, I felt tired, but clear. The divorce process took time. There were meetings, documents, mediated conversations, difficult discussions about the house, parenting schedules, and all the small practical pieces of a life that had once felt permanent. I never used Hannah against Emma, and never told Hannah the details of the affair. I told her the truth she needed. Her parents had made serious adult mistakes, and neither parent would stop loving her. Emma apologized many times. She said Paris had been a fantasy. She said Julian had made her feel younger. She said she had felt invisible in our marriage. Maybe some of that was true, but feeling invisible does not give someone permission to erase another person's trust. Julian never came back into her life. Natalie told Emma he had returned from Paris 2 days later. He had gone alone. Apparently, the romance became less exciting when the lies had nowhere left to hide. 6 months after the airport, our divorce was finalized. Emma moved into a small apartment near the school where she taught. Hannah stayed with me during the week and spent weekends with Emma. We learned new routines, different routines. On our 16th anniversary, I made a reservation at Bellini's again. I did not know why at first. Maybe I wanted to prove I could walk into that restaurant without being destroyed by it. Maybe I wanted to reclaim one evening from a memory that had taken too much. I sat at the same table by the window. The pianist was there. The lights were low. Rain touched the glass outside, just as it had the year before. The hostess asked if someone would be joining me. No, I said, just me. And for the first time in a long time, I did not feel lonely when I said it. I ordered the same meal, pasta for dinner, espresso after. Then I took the small jewelry box from my pocket. I had kept it for a year. The necklace inside still carried the date Emma and I met. I did not give it to her. I did not throw it away either. I took it home and placed it in a drawer, not as a promise, not as a punishment, just as proof that something could be meaningful once, even if it was not meant to last forever. That second plane ticket did not destroy my marriage. The lies had already done that. The ticket simply showed me where the truth was going, and once I saw it, I stopped asking someone else to choose me. I chose myself. If this story moved you, subscribe for more stories about betrayal, boundaries, and finding your way back to yourself. And tell us in the comments, would you have confronted your spouse at the restaurant or waited until the airport?
Welcome back to Real Family Secrets. Grab your snacks, get comfortable. The people in these stories had every chance to behave themselves. They just chose wrong. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. You're going to love it here. My name is Stanley Morrison, and I was married to Kristen for 30 years. 2 weeks ago, at the reading of her will, her children from her first marriage received a penthouse, a $17 million company, and a yacht. I received an envelope. Inside was a one-way plane ticket to Zurich, and everyone in that room laughed. I met Kristen when I was 34, working as a high school history teacher in Connecticut. She was a widow then, already wealthy from her first husband's investment firm, already raising 3 teenagers who never once, in 30 years, stopped seeing me as an intruder in their mother's life. I never asked for money. I never touched her accounts beyond the household budget we shared. I taught for another 22 years after we married, and I loved her, plainly and completely, in a way that had nothing to do with anything she owned. Kristen passed 6 weeks ago, quietly, in her sleep, after a long decline that both of us had quietly accepted was coming. I sat with her every single night of that final year. Her children visited on holidays and called it devotion. The reading of the will took place in a downtown law office, a conference room with a long mahogany table and a view of the city that felt entirely wrong for what was about to happen. Margaret, the estate attorney, read through the bequests methodically, the penthouse to Diana, the company shares to Marcus, the yacht, and a substantial trust to Thomas. And to my husband, Stanley, Margaret read, I leave the enclosed envelope. Diana leaned forward, her eyes glittering. The gold digger gets an envelope, she said, not quite under her breath. Gold digger. The word escaped before I could stop it. Oh, please, Stanley, Diana said. We all know what this was. You married our mother for her money, and now you're finding out what she really thought of you. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. Inside was a single airline ticket. One way to Zurich, departing the following morning. The room erupted. Thomas doubled over laughing. She bought you a ticket out of the country, he said. That's perfect. Here's your inheritance, Stanley. A one-way ticket as far from us as possible. I stood in that hallway afterward holding a plane ticket to a country I'd never visited, where I knew no one, where I didn't speak the language. 30 years of marriage, and this was apparently what I was worth to a family I'd never truly belonged to. I almost didn't board that flight. Some part of me wanted to simply disappear into ordinary grief and let the humiliation fade quietly, but something about the specificity of it, Zurich exactly, not just away, kept nagging at the back of my mind. I landed in Zurich the following afternoon, jet-lagged, grieving, and entirely unsure why I'd actually gotten on the plane. Tucked inside the ticket envelope, I found a small card I'd missed the first time, an address, and a name. Heinrich Vogel, Zurich Cantonal Private Banking. I found the bank the next morning, a quiet, unremarkable building near the lake. A receptionist checked a list, made a brief phone call, and within minutes an older man in an impeccable suit greeted me personally. "Mr. Morrison," he said, "I am Heinrich Vogel. Your wife was my client for 11 years. I've been expecting you." Expecting me? She's been dead for 6 weeks. I only just arrived. She left very specific instructions, Vogel said. You were to receive the ticket through the will, exactly as written, with no further explanation given to the family. She was quite firm that no one else learn of this account's existence until you arrived here in person. He led me to a private office and opened a thin folder. Your wife established this account 11 years ago, he said, funded initially with an inheritance from her own mother that she never disclosed to her children. Over the years, she added to it privately, through investments her children never knew existed. How much? I asked, my voice barely working. As of this morning, Vogel said, the account holds just under $41 million. It is held in your name alone, Mr. Morrison. It always has been. I sat in that office and wept, not from the number, though the number was staggering, but from the realization of what she'd actually done. Kristen hadn't sent me away with an insult. She'd sent me somewhere her children would never think to look, carrying a message only I would understand once I arrived. Vogel handed me a sealed letter, the last item in the folder. I opened it right there, my hands shaking. My darling Stanley, it began. If you're reading this, then the ticket did exactly what I hoped. It made you angry enough and curious enough to get on that plane instead of simply grieving quietly at home. I built this account so my children could never touch it, could never contest it, and could never turn it into another weapon in the endless war they've been fighting since their father died. I let them believe you got nothing, because I needed them to stop watching you long enough for you to get here safely, with the account already established and unreachable by any lawyer they could hire. You never once asked me for anything in 30 years, Stanley. That is exactly why I built something they could never take from you. Go live, my love, somewhere quiet, somewhere far from their noise. You earned peace, and now you have the means to actually have it. I sat in that Zurich office for almost an hour after finishing the letter, holding 30 years of quiet, complicated love in a single page of handwriting. I returned to Connecticut 2 weeks later, briefly, only to formally decline any further involvement in the estate proceedings and to collect a few personal belongings. Diana, Marcus, and Thomas never learned about the Zurich account. As far as they know, I simply flew away quietly, exactly as they'd mocked me for doing. I live near Lake Geneva now, in a small house Kristen would have loved, close enough to the water to hear it most mornings. I still teach, occasionally tutoring local students in English history, not because I need the income, but because Kristen always said idle hands make for a heavy heart. I think about that conference room sometimes, the laughter, the envelope, the specific cruelty of being handed something they assumed was worthless in front of an audience. I've stopped being angry about it. They gave me exactly what my wife wanted them to give me. The appearance of nothing wrapped around the beginning of everything. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real family stories and tell us in the comments, do you think Kristen's plan was brilliant or too risky?
The room glows with memories, your perfume swirling in the late afternoon. I run my fingers over the tattoo you traced on my skin. Heartbeats sync, skipping rhythm over silent truths. Your laughter spilled red wine on the carpet. You call it art, I call it a map back to you. We paint confessions on broken picture frames, wrapped in your hair, tangled in secrets I'm not trying to escape. Heavy with longing, I draw promises on steam glass. You question everything, but I'm steady as your shadow. Even when you fold your words, I read between the lines. Let's step past boundaries with no excuse. You catch me falling, I never ask for rescue. If tomorrow tears us apart, let tonight be truth. Trace your name and breath on my window. Our story written out loud, no silence left to hide. Every word, every mark is ours to keep. Midnight echo stories in the hallway. You collect half smiles for rainy days. Hands speak when mouths hesitate. You drop your guard and dare me to follow. We're reckless, but honest, burning through doubt, burning through doubt. Ooh. Spin me into forgiveness, unravel every secret. No questions, no bargaining, just the ache in my chest. We crumble our pride and build something new. I'm yours in this moment with no borrowed time. Tomorrow tears us apart, let tonight be truth. Trace your name and breath on my window. A story written out loud, no silence left to hide. Let every word, every mark be ours to keep. Nothing borrowed, nothing left unsaid. The last laugh, holding on to the night. Your voice lingers, sweet and unfinished we fade, but you remain in every echo of morning.